see the breakdown of who turned out.
I've seen a detailed turnout, Andrea. So
you did?
Surprised.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
What
was it?
Said about Manhattan, because actually Cuomo did well in Manhattan. He did particularly well, like on the east side, particularly. He did relatively okay on the Upper West Side, and then in some of the areas like Greenwich Village, he got more clocked, as you might expect. But where Mandami really had the biggest margin was in Brooklyn. He had the biggest margins in Brooklyn. And that's because Brooklyn's changed a lot since I lived there, okay? So that doesn't necessarily surprise me. One of the things I noticed, because I know Brooklyn as well as I do, is when you look at, I told you how much Brooklyn's changed. My neighborhood, where I grew up, was Canarsie. Was mostly a white neighborhood when I grew up. It's mostly African American now. Cuomo won that with like 60%. He won East Flatbush next door, which is, the East Canarsie, with 60%. Now, most of those African Americans in Canarsie and East Flatbush are homeowners. So they tend to actually, think a little bit more centrist, and concerned about taxes. Okay. Right. But then you look at something like Bedford-Stuyvesant that used to be, when I lived there, again, 100%, almost like 100% African American, but it's been gentrified now, and you got a lot of like white young liberals there. Number one, and Mandami won there, and he probably, I'm guessing, I can't tell, probably even one among the African Americans who are still left there, because they tend to be more renters, okay, than homeowners. And so Mandami's, promising rent freezes and everything. And you mentioned the Italian.
Okay, this is Congressman John Kitover. I'm in Ben Mendelson's Deep State Patriots. He's just posted my YouTube account. We're gonna find out what he has to say.
But now it has a lot of Palestinians and a lot of Arabs. And the thing about the Italian vote, as you probably know, Andrea, in New York, okay, and this is true even downstate New York in general, not just the city. Italian
This is Congressman-elect in the 16th District in Illinois, John Kitover. We are in the Deep State Patriots Clubhouse Congress account with Ben Mendelsohn and his collection of Trump derangement syndrome Democrats. It's titled Live from the Brazilian Embassy, Geopolitics Without the MAGA, and he has pinned my YouTube link.
Because all of a sudden in November, all the Republicans get to vote, more Italians would be able to get to vote. But I don't think he's going to make a run for it. I think he's going to do one of those two things I said. He'll either endorse Mandami, or he'll just, not endorse anyone and stay quiet.
But a lot of anti-Muslim sentiment on X this morning. Do you think that'll make a difference in the general? I'm not sure.
Question, Francine?
Anti-Muslim
Okay, this is John Kitover, Congressman-elect in the 16th District of Illinois, Peoria, Rockford, Milton, Quincy, Durham, other areas of Illinois, the Central Corridor. I'm running for your congressman. I am the Ben Mendelsohn Deep State Patriots Trump derangement syndrome Democrat psychopath house with Ben Mendelsohn.
Or basically like Burger Park, which is a super Orthodox Jews. Okay.
Somebody's playing copyright music.
They're not going to vote for Mandami. They'll vote for Eric Adams.
Oh, shit. How is this phone playing copyrighted music out of all the phones? Holy shit, that's wild. My phone is playing
matter that much. The whole Israel thing won't matter that much because there aren't enough Jews left. As much as everybody says how many Jews are left in, how many Jews are in New York, a lot of the areas that used to be Jewish are not Jewish anymore. Okay, they're other cultures and other races, and that's one of the reasons Mandami was able to win. because Mondani would never be able to
This
win.
is John
in
Kitover,
New York City
16th
that I
District
grew
of
up in.
Illinois, Rockford,
Never
Peoria,
just because of the
Bloomington. I am
demographics.
Ben
Okay,
Mendelsohn's
but the
Deep
demographics
State
have changed
Patriots. This is a
dramatically.
collection of Democrat,
Ken,
Trump,
did you
derangement syndrome,
look at the voter turnout?
psychopaths,
Because I think
low IQ voters, and they
do you
have
have
pinned my
the
YouTube link
breakdown
because
by
they
age?
I don't
hate
have
me
a
that
very high
much.
section by
I've been
neighborhood.
getting death
Well,
threats
because
that
I
my
think
house
this
is gonna
was
be burned
as much
because I have been recording Clown House for
a
many years
statement
now,
of
and they've introduced a new feature called
progressive
Anonymous
wing
that
wanting change,
doesn't
and
allow them
also
to kick out
the
accounts, so I'm able
younger
to live
voters
stream
who
the
are
room.
actually
And this is
fired
Ben
up and
Mendelsohn.
excited
He
by
absolutely hates me. He called me an
much of the
absolute
policy,
loser
universal
yesterday.
child
So we're
care.
gonna see what they say because they pinned it.
It'll
And
just be
eventually
interesting.
somebody's
I
gonna say
think
this
it's
room
going
is
to be
being
interesting
live
to
streamed.
see. This is
We
New
shared
York
by
City.
Ben.
This is not Arizona.
So we're gonna
I
see
think
what they
it's going
say.
to be
Once, I'm
interesting
sure they're
to
gonna mention the
see
link. Here we go.
a couple of things. How much, what lessons are actually taken away and applicable for Democrats across the country, and well, depending on what happens, I suppose even in the general election in November. But still, I think it's also
This is
interesting.
Congressman-elect
This
John
was the
Kitover,
AOC
16th
Bernie
District of Illinois,
endorsement, and
Rockford,
they've been
Peoria,
racking in the
Bloomington. I need your help. I need your support. Go to johnforcongress.com. I am in
So it'll
Ben
be interesting
Mendelsohn's
to see
Deep
how
State
much this
Patriots. This
ends
is
up
a group of Trump
the
derangement
messages end up
syndrome,
filtering
anti-Americans.
into
They consider themselves part of the Trump
the
resistance.
overall
It's ridiculous.
Democratic
And they've
platform.
pinned my
But,
YouTube
I
account to
think
the
it
top of the room.
partly
So
also depends on
they're
what happens
hopefully
in
going
the
to
general.
mention
But
it
I know
soon,
Scotty
and you're
probably
about to see the
also.
follow-up. Go to johnforcongress.com.
Something in the chat, so maybe
it's not as clear cut. And many Jews I know voted for Mamdani. And I think sometimes we read into this way too much. In that, I mean, I've been dissecting the map for the last 12 hours of the different areas, and it is fascinating to see how it breaks down, neighborhood to neighborhood. Mamdani was more than anything else.
This is Congressman-elect John.
Because the Islamophobia that you're talking about, Dr. Francine, happened for sure in the last few weeks. Like, if you were a voter, you got bombarded with a lot of shit here that was, certainly veiled Islamophobia, and sometimes outright. We saw the ads, and the bottom line is people are sick of the Democratic establishment. So when they see an endorsement like Bloomberg, they don't give a fuck. When they see an endorsement of Bill fucking Clinton, they definitely don't give a fuck. When they see all the money that is going towards defeating Zoran and not promoting somebody else's message, that backfires. All of the shit they were typically doing to try to sway it towards Cuomo, who was not liked anyway, didn't work.
Couldn't be happier.
On top of that, well, if people were holding out and unsure about Cuomo, there was such a movement, anybody but Cuomo vote by all the candidates. I should not say all, but a lot of the candidates that were running on the ranked choice were against Cuomo and were even adamant, don't rank Cuomo here, and then doing the cross endorsements, which were very big. But the thing of it is, people who were not sure about where to put Cuomo or whatever, I think a lot of them did watch the debate. A lot of them did watch him campaign. He probably ran the worst, laziest campaign that I've ever seen anybody run for mayor of New York City. He rested on his laurels and his name recognition, thought he was going to coast. It was so arrogant and dismissive of New Yorkers. And when you watch the debate, he wasn't it. People were expecting somebody who was going to be, tough and in control like he was during the, COVID daily statements and all of that. He wasn't it. He was slow. He was not connected. He didn't have any sense of power. And then during the campaign, he wasn't even out there. He was barely out there doing the thing. If anything, he had all of his money-backed people throwing negative ads out. And people are sick of this shit. People want change. And I personally was voting for Lander or Adrienne Adams. Those were my two. But when I see all the enthusiasm of the young people and people really just sick of the establishment, this is a shot that should be heard around the country for not the policies, but the idea that we need transformational change. Doesn't mean that everybody's like, yeah, I want free shit. It's not about that. It's about wanting to upend the system and do something better for the working people. So that's what I saw.
And Austin says in the chat, not just the country, but the world. And I actually agree with him, but let's see what happens.
Andrea, can you, you and Scotty take over for about 5 minutes? I got some.
That's fine. No, but I wanted to
All right, I'll be right.
whether it was okay. I wanted to give, because I have the map pulled up.
Yes.
The New York Times interactive map by polling place and by neighborhood is really fascinating. And to your point, to Ken's point about the homeowners in Brooklyn,
Link in. Did you put the link in the chat for those of us in Arizona?
Oh yeah.
I'll put every.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. Pin it in the chat, whichever. When you look at whether you look at the neighborhood, or you look at just the boroughs overall, okay? So Brooklyn went 49 to 32, Mamdani. Queens went 46 to 39. I don't know who would have thought Bronx would have been Cuomo country, but it starts to make sense when you see the map. 53 to 34, Cuomo over Mamdani for the Bronx. Staten Island was 46 to 37 for Cuomo. Manhattan was 39 to 34. And the neighborhoods in Manhattan that went for Cuomo were fairly predictable. I know this very well because this is my domain. The neighborhoods that are the wealthiest went for Cuomo. It is not a shock. And and Brad Lander was, pretty up there. But Upper East Side went 45 to 29 for Cuomo. Upper West Side is a lot closer because they're a little more liberal. They went 34 to 30 with Brad Lander at a close third. And then the only other one of note is really like Tribeca, for example, which, is probably the most expensive. Everywhere else, from Harlem to Washington Heights to, Greenwich Village, Chelsea, all of that is, was all, Mamdani. Not by a huge amount, but, it was a significant win. And I find it very interesting. Then when you look at the Brooklyn side, it's very funny. The more gentrified parts of Brooklyn, because I think Ken talked about Bushwick. Bushwick.
No, I think Bed-Stuy that got gentrified.
Well, right,
Bed-Stuy. One Bed-Stuy.
Right. No. I'm making the point. Yes, Bed-Stuy got gentrified, but there's still a lot. It's still predominantly black neighborhood. But here's the thing. Bed-Stuy is a very, very politically active community. Very politically active. This could also contribute to why they went for Mamdani. When you look at Bushwick, it was 79 to 13% for Mamdani. That's probably the biggest gap in the city. On the flip side, for Cuomo, if you look at Borough Park, which is largely Hasidic Orthodox Jews, it went 80 to 11 for Cuomo, which I found very fascinating. But the less gentrified parts of Brooklyn, and yes, there are more homeowners, but it's also not as wealthy, ended up going for Cuomo. Cuomo won a lot of the less wealthy vote in a lot of these boroughs, and that's probably similar to why he won the Bronx, meaning Cuomo. And the only
it's different. Look, the neighborhoods he won really strongly in Brooklyn, which I lived in, which I grew up in.
Yeah.
It changed dramatically, but I understand how they've changed. Nonetheless, they changed demographically, but they're primarily people who own 1 and 2 family homes. And having run campaigns there, I've run many campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they vote on issues like property taxes. Okay, they vote on taxation. Okay, and so it's that is a reason why Cuomo will win Canarsie, and he did win Canarsie, and he won East Flatbush, and then he'll lose areas like Bushwick, because Bushwick doesn't have as many homeowners. It's that simple.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm trying to relate it to the Bronx because the Bronx is also.
Yeah, the Bronx surprised me. I mean, it's like I just really.
Yeah,
The only thing I would say is look at the vote. Look at the vote. I mean, I don't know if you have enough breakdown to see Riverside and Co-op City, but there's still probably significant amounts of Jews who are not as liberal as the Jews that you're thinking about in Manhattan. And even those Jews apparently, a lot of them voted for Cuomo if he did that well on the Upper East Side. So I would think that may explain the Bronx more than some Italians on Arthur Avenue.
But I hear you. Co-op City obviously went for Cuomo. He also did campaign there because I remember seeing that. So yeah, I mean the map is very interesting. But essentially, West and North Brooklyn is all Mondami country, all the way up to Western Queens. But then
Please don't scroll.
Side is essentially Cuomo. So I find it very fascinating, this map, and then
Cuomo's off from Queens. He grew up in Corona.
Oh yeah. No, I understand. And it's not surprising that the ones closer to Long Island, Little Neck, Douglaston, all of
that's money.
much more.
That's money.
Exactly.
That's where Trump grew up, actually.
So I have another when you finish, I have a different question, but keep going.
I just want to say, I think maybe this is we could open up a room later and get some New Yorkers in and do a reaction room for folks who want to dive deeper into New York. I think we've made the broader points about, what change this portends possibly for the Democrats, and just check back with Scotty if there's any couple of points that you want to land on, Scotty. What do you think? And then move on to other topics for folks.
Oh yeah, that's fine. I mean, the thing that I find interesting is obviously we're in New York City and we're kind of bombarded by all of this, but to see the conversations that happen nationally on this is really interesting. But I think what Republicans on the right are already doing, and what they're going to continue to do, is talk about the socialist totally, talk about everything is free, and not talk about why I feel and why so many people voted for him is that they wanted a change. If this was basically, I hate to say it, like an anti-Hakeem Jeffries vote in some way. This is an anti-Chuck Schumer vote. Right, I was going down the list. This is anti all of those people who vote because they want something new. And this should be studied by the Democratic Party to see how the candidates in their specific region not necessarily adopt the policies. It's not about the DSA. It's about how do we connect with people on an organic level to talk about the needs that they have in their community. That's how we can be.
And I just want to share, as we're wrapping this up, that my former colleague did get elected to DNC vice chair. So we could start a crowdsourced document for people who want to put forward their well thought out desire for change from the DNC, and any thoughts and suggestions. Because maybe there's a chance for change with some of the new leadership in there.
Agreed. Can we go to Barbara then?
I'm super. So I am confused about what's happening in Iran, and I don't know if any of you have been, following it, the insanity of it. But what? So the last thing I heard, and I'm just doing a fact check right now, last night was that the bunkers, or whatever we call them, were hardly damaged. Does anybody have any line of sight on this? And the fact that Iran is declaring they're just going to rebuild it is only going to take a few months. So, question for you.
Yeah. What I know, and I haven't looked at it in the last couple of hours, so there might be more information. But basically, the assessment is that there was damage, at all three sites, but not enough to prevent them from recreating it. So, and apparently the the nuclear matter, the atomic matter that they are most concerned about, was moved out of its location. So they think that they have the majority of that, and that's the problem, because they might not be able to make a nuclear bomb that they can send a missile, but they can make like dirty bombs out of that, and they can make smaller weapons that are radioactive. So, but the bottom line is, it did damage, but not enough damage to prove it. It held them back anywhere from about 3 to 6 months longer than it was last time. And the thing is that, Trump is saying that everything's been completely demolished, which is absurd, because they have no way to know. I mean, that's one of the things, is that pretty much most of the things that I've heard, the different, was that they would not be able to tell the actual damage unless there were boots on the ground and they actually saw the damage, because it's down so far that there's not and there's so much debris that they can't. It's not like an X-ray machine that they can go down and see exactly what's in there. They know that there's damage, but as far as they know, they might have moved everything out of the way. They don't know. So if anybody says they know for sure, they're lying. And in the what do you call it? The head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff said that. He said that we think the damage was done, but we will not know for a while because of the difficulties. So the thing is that everybody is saying that they won. Trump won, and Iran won, and Israel won. Nothing's really. The thing is, the thing that changed is they've been threatening to do this for how many years, and they actually did do it. So that is a fact that it changes the situation. But does that mean that Iran's going to have a bomb any sooner than, or any later than it would have otherwise? Probably not. I mean, the situation is pretty much the same. And Trump is just going, he's just shooting his mouth up, like an idiot. I don't know. Does anybody else heard anything other than that?
No, but I feel like at least the Iranians know that Trump is crazy,
Yeah.
and he would bomb.
Yeah.
And that would hold me back.
Exactly. I think that is something that changed to the benefit of I don't know of who. Look, it's the whole thing shouldn't have been done. This should have been done through diplomacy. This should have been done with the original Iran nuclear deal that Obama did. I mean, we wouldn't be in a situation if he wouldn't have ripped it up. But it is what it is now, and as long as he doesn't do anything more, I think we're really not that much of a different situation than we were 2 weeks ago. Other than he knows that Trump's crazy and he might do something, which again, I mean, gives an advantage to Trump for right now.
The other thing that we don't know now is who's really running Iran, because I had heard somewhere that the supreme leader left before the whole thing began.
Well, he went undercover. He sort of disappeared, but he's around somewhere. I'm pretty sure he's still pulling the strings. That's what you would hear otherwise.
Oh yeah, because you're in the diplomatic community.
I don't know. They don't exactly call us up on the red phone and say, hey, you guys need to know this.